Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
oh my goodness. Be fantastic if that's how she sat the entire time.
It would be. I wouldn't bank on it. She likes to move around. She likes to move around, and she probably will try and climb up into my lap at some point. Okay, yeah, I can see. I can read. Yeah. It's gonna be an experiment. Mm.
You're so toot.
Hi, Crimson. How is she? Well, Dad's here to help participate. Uh, Dad's here on damage control. Just in case. Just in case everything goes south. No. More like she'll knock over the ring light. I'll wait until more people get in here, and then that way we can go over what is happening today. Because I think I'm gonna tell the story. I'm gonna tell everybody how this happened, and then we're gonna dive right in. This is how we're gonna do that, just to be able to do it, because the past 2 weeks have gone horribly wrong. I feel like I don't need to say that. This was from like Spirit Halloween, like years ago. I don't even think they have them anymore.
What?
The eye lights.
Oh, yeah.
I know they carried them 1 year. I don't think they've continuously carried them. I haven't seen them in a few years, but... And then we reprogrammed it because they don't have a very long shelf life, and we've replaced the lights in there. It used to only one be solid color, and then we got a bunch of those LEDs, clipped them, and put them inside the eye, and that's how we can change the colors now. Fun story. Dave can put lights in that. So, yeah, it is sad. I wish they still had them. I'm sure you could probably find them online. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you, Emmy. Denny's in here. I tried to say both of them at the same time. That didn't work out. Hi, Swiftblood. Oh, for sure. And they weren't expensive. They were, like, real cheap. And that's why the lights went out so quick. But you get another set of LEDs, and now, you can get, like, color-changing LEDs on the cheap. Back when I got this eyeball, that was not the case. And then just replace them. A little DIY. A little DIY in thrift store. But, like, yeah, that's my favorite light. For sure. Dad.
I need to be able to see if they're trying to talk to me too.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I got a little story up top, just to preface everything today, because if you aren't normally here, this is your PSA. This is a book club. We read a book. We're currently working our way through the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. And if you have not read that series, I highly suggest you check out my YouTube, where you can find every preceding novel, but we are on the 5th one, so you're probably not going to know what's going on if you're just joining us for the first time. Now, if you want to go check out that link and join us back here, I do this every single week, and this will be uploaded to YouTube just as soon as I can get it up there, and TikTok lets me have my own content, because sometimes you gotta wait a day. But the past 2 weeks haven't really gone as planned. Sorry for the previous 2 weeks. Last week, we had some rather inclement weather, and Dave was in trouble. So I kind of bailed just so I could keep an eye on my phone. Oh, you were here when I was reading Johannes. Well, good to see you again. And all of Johannes should be up. I still have to re-record some content for Johannes, and I'd like to get that done. It's just been sitting on my laptop. But, and guys, it's so great. But I've gotten better. I've gotten better at maintaining the workflow, but I just have to go back and fix a few things. But we are currently reading through Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Book 5, Conference of Birds. And we are going to once again try Chapter 7 without tornadoes this time. So, or at least tornadoes that I know of. We're not, right?
As far as I know.
Okay, we better not. Anyway, and I just have a little thing to get to up top. If it looks like there's some sort of amount of disturbance, it's because there probably is. So funny story. First of all, let's. I want y'all to meet somebody. Here you go. This is Minty. She's a good kitty. Yeah, look at that kitty. She is the newest addition to our family. And that was entirely on accident. Now, as you all know, my day job, I deliver for
Major pizza chain.
Yeah, a major pizza chain. And I was there for half the story. Dave was there for half the story. I was delivering the other night when I went to go take a delivery, and there was a little stray cat on the steps of this apartment building, which, as you all know, I see a cat, I pet a cat. That's how that works. So I stopped to pet this cat, and the cat then proceeds to follow me all the way to my delivery. And when the gentleman answers the door, the cat runs into his apartment. And so me, seeing a collarless stray cat, was like, "Oh, is this your cat?" And he said, "No, this has happened 5 times." So I was like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to let a cat in that wasn't yours." And he was like, "It's not your fault." And I was like, "Do you know whose cat she happens to be?" And he was like, "I sure do. They live 2 doors down, and they haven't answered their door or gotten back to me in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Oh, that's strange. Do you need help getting this cat out of your apartment?" And he was like, "No." And he kind of did that hunched over walk real slow, like when you have bad back problems. And I don't want to step into his apartment, so I thought I'd just try and call for her. And so I was like, "Here, kitty, kitty," and immediately poked her head around the corner and then ran back out to me. And I shut his door real fast. I was like, "Thank you. You have a good night." And then I went 2 doors down and knocked on the door. Nobody answered. The cat followed me all the way back down the steps to my car, where I then opened the door to get back in the car, and the cat just sort of hopped in like she belonged there. And I was like, "Oh, no, I can't. We have 3 cats. There's no way." Dave's going to be so upset. Like, knowing, I'm like, we just don't have more space. And Dave knows that more than I do. So I picked the cat up and I put her back on the pavement, and she jumps right back into my car. I then pick her back up, run her back up the steps, halfway up the steps to the apartment building, set the cat down. She's letting me hold her and pet her like it's normal, so she's clearly domesticated. And I run all the way back to my car, and when I get back to my car, I get halfway in the car, and I'm about to shut the door, and I look up, and I just see her little sad face in between the banisters of the apartment building, just looking like the saddest cat. And I was like, "Oh." And I hesitated for a second. And then when I hesitated, she darted down the steps all the way back out around the car and then hopped back in the car. So I was like, "Well, we'll just take her home." And we have another cat that kind of lives outside, and his name is Bradley. And I was like, "Well, maybe we'll just sort of feed him like we do Bradley." So I took her all the way home, and I set her down, and I went inside, and I was like, Now, I know what you're going to say, but the cat jumped in my car. And Dave was like, okay. And I was like, can we just, like, I know we probably can't take in another cat, and that's fine. Can we just leave her outside with Bradley? He goes outside, sees the kitten, and he's like, oh, we're going to put you in the garage. We're going to see if you're microchipped. We can put her in your back office because she's adorable. She's the most adorable thing you've ever seen. And she loves attention. She clearly craves attention. I don't know if she'll sit here perfectly still the entire time. She probably won't. She probably won't. She needs to be pet. Craves it. It is a necessity. And so Dave immediately was like, oh, well, I'm going to see if she's microchipped tomorrow. And then if she's not, we'll just keep her. So we went to see if she was microchipped. Or Dave went and saw if she was microchipped. And she was not. And so, yeah, we're going to get all our shots on Friday, and now she lives here, and this is her collar, and she's adorable. So, she's a cute little baby, and I hope she sits here for the entire time well behaved. If she doesn't, just know she's probably going to crawl into my lap, so we might have a small interlude of a very adorable cat. Thank you, Dave, for breaking HIPAA. People didn't need to know that. That is her medical business. I wasn't going to mention that. That's her business. Anyway, we're getting it taken care of, right? Dave has parents' rights. Oh,
She agreed. She agreed.
Oh my god, that was adorable.
Yeah, honestly, she's so small. I wasn't going to touch on this because people might feel a certain way about it. But we're going to have them aborted. Mainly because she's just too young. She's probably not even 6 months. She's so small. I don't even think she could give birth without dying. Like, she's so tiny. Yeah, honestly, if we didn't even, like, think about it until the vet said that she was. Yeah, we went to get her fixed, and they told us that she's already carrying, so we're gonna get that taken care of, because we don't want her to go through that so young. She's so tiny. I'm not even sure if it's safe. Yeah, and so, like, and also, there's a huge cat population control problem here. And there aren't a lot of places, but here especially, like, there are so many cats.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And our shelter is overwhelmed with cats. To the point where...
It's mostly TNRs anymore.
Yeah, it's almost unobtainable. Like, when Dave went in to see it, like, if we could get her work done and everything, they were afraid he was gonna give her up, and they were like, I guess you want to leave her here? And Dave was like, no, I was gonna take her home. And they were like, really? And they, like, cut a bunch of cost out for us to, like, help with the, like, care of her, because it was more cost effective for them to, like, slash the price of all the procedures that she needed than for them to board another cat and also have to take care of a litter of kittens. So they just were like, $20. Like, and we were like, okay. So I think they were really relieved that we were planning on keeping her. So she's quarantined in here for right now. So she's going to be joining us this evening. And this Friday, we're going to get all her work done. I'm going to drop her off in the morning. And then she's going to recover and be in quarantine from the rest of the pets for a little bit, just to make sure nobody gets sick. And they can get used to each other through the crack in the door. So we have a little, like, chain lock on there so the door can like open a little bit so they can play through the door and get used to each other's scent. And that's what we're doing right now. So that is Minty. And
She's just a baby.
she's just a baby. And we're all very happy she's here. And just know that every live from here on out is going to have a big cat attention problem. She likes to steal objects out of my hands so that I will pet her. I say that with love. I know y'all are very supportive of me loving cats and all my cats, and you also love my cats. She will try and take this book. Eventually. It might not happen tonight. Dad's here to help offset the cat attention problem because she needs to be pet. And she's smacking my mon out of my hand. She's like tipping drinks over. She's stealing my Switch. The other day she tried to get on top of the Switch while I was holding it in its handheld form. She just put both paws on the screen and then tried to like put her whole body on all four paws on the Switch screen. And I was like, oh, no, wait, hold on. And I had to like set it down because she was like, you're not petting me enough, clearly. And I'm like, I've been petting you this entire time. So, but she's very sociable. She
Good stretch.
She's stretching. That's why Dad's doing.
Oh, you gotta compliment good stretches.
Yeah, good stretch.
It's cat law.
But yeah, I half expect her to try and walk on this book at some point. But that's why Dad's here. So hopefully. Because we really need to get through this because we've tried twice now and have not succeeded. So I'm going to start from the top of the chapter again just to head us all off in the right direction. Who is ready for chapter 7? And do you all want a recap? I recapped last time, but I can do it again. Because we had troubles and stuff. And that's fair. Definitely recap. Okay. Well, Miss Peregrine calls Jacob into this Old West loop with these fighting factions of Americans to help try and locate a missing peculiar, one faction believes that another faction stole from them. It's all very insider baseball. These people are clearly ready to go at it, and Jacob is the only thing standing in between them and a low-key civil war, which the whites kind of would like. So he's looking for a hollow to prove the existence that the whites were in the area and probably pulled off this crime instead of a rivaling faction of Americans, right? So Miss Peregrine kind of bluffs his way through it for him for a bit until they actually do find evidence of hollows. So now we gotta locate a missing peculiar, because now that the hollows and the whites are involved, it's pretty much Jacob is the only one able to locate him. So now, well, Lamothe and Perkins are definitely invested in him locating their missing peculiar before it's too late. So now we all got wrangled into this mess too. Who is ready to go find some missing peculiars? That's what you missed on Glee. I always want to say that, and I talk myself out of it. And then I, low-key, I'm like, I don't know what to say after that. That's what you missed on Glee. I shouldn't frame it right that. This isn't Glee. It'll never be Glee. Let us all be thankful. Okay.
You want me to sing more opera?
No. If anybody does one singular mashup, I'm gonna fucking lose it. I'm so sorry, Jacob. I so regret putting you in this situation. Miss Peregrine, Emma, and Enoch were following me through tunnels as I tracked the trail of hologast residue. It was easy enough to follow down here, but what about on the other side of the loop? What if I can't do it? I said. I've never tracked a hollow like this before. I'm not like Addison, who can smell peculiars from a long way off. What you can do is even better. You can sense them. The trail led to the loop entrance the Americans used. Yet another elevator, which led us up through a much gentler changeover and into the present. We walked out into a lobby full of tourists. Hope you folks had a great time. A grinning tour guide slapped a sticker on my shirt that read, I saw the old-time gold mine and all I got was this lousy sticker. Soaked into the carpet by the exit, I saw a black spot. The hollow had come through this way, into the present. The trail of hollow-gassed residue continued outside, down the sidewalk, around a corner, and I found it easier and easier to follow, so that after a while I hardly even had to look for it. My nose, and more than that, a sensation in my gut was telling me where to go. I felt like an old cartoon character following the wafting scent of a pie cooling in a window. We were passing through the crowded center of the downtown, and I worried that my companion's old clothes might attract attention. Until I looked more closely around me. There were people in Old West costumes, in full cowboy attire, and dressed like old-timey madams walking everywhere. A lot of the old buildings had been preserved. What had once been a lawless frontier town had become a kind of open-air Wild West theme park. And you could get your photo taken in Old West gear, buy chaps and 10-gallon hats and replica buffalo bones at gift shops, and watch costumed reenactments of famous shootouts. One was happening in the town square right now. The duelists cheered on by a crowd of sun-baked tourists and their bratty, distracted kids. I couldn't help but be reminded of the very real armed standoff that was still happening inside the loop, and I realized that this town was the perfect cover for a loop entrance. The comings and goings of strange people in strange costumes would arouse no special interest at all. This is fun for normals, Enoch said. Watch people pretend to shoot one another. Keep your eyes sharp, Emma hissed, scanning the faces of the crowd. Murnau and the other whites could still be nearby. It would be best if we saw them before they saw us. That brought me solidly back to reality. Right now, we were hunting the whites. But if they ever realized it, they'd start hunting us right back. The idea jogged loose a question that had been burning in my mind earlier, but which I hadn't been able to ask in front of the Americans. Miss P, how did you find the place where the hollow residue started? Emma's head snapped toward me. What's that? There wasn't any residue in the tent, I said. I made that up. The real trail started 1,000 feet away, and somehow Miss P led me right to it. I looked at her expectantly. She returned a sphinx-like smile. As we inspected the scene, I realized the whites themselves never entered the Marrowbone Loop. They sent their hologast instead, along with someone else, someone who wouldn't attract much attention. That was the person who snuck into the girl's tent and kidnapped her, dragging her to the spot where the hologast had apparently been waiting, where you discovered its residue trail. But how did you track that person? Imbrunly intuition, she said. Enoch groaned. Oh, come on. All right, then. I noticed light but unusual boot prints leading in and out of the torn tent back, a tread pattern made by a high-traction sole, not the smooth-soled cowboy boots favored by the Californios or the moccasins most northerners wear. It led out along the tree line.
You never cease to amaze, miss, Emma said.
So, who's this other person? Asked Enoch.
Based on the shoe size and, well, Imbrinley intuition, I suspect it's a girl of about the same physical age and build as Ellery. Just follow the Hologas scent and sense trail. These whites don't travel anywhere without hollows, and I doubt they'll suspect they're being tracked that way. You have the advantage, for now, at least.
It's only an advantage if they always travel on foot, I said. If they got into a car... I'd been expecting the trail to dry up at any moment, to dead end at a parking lot in an empty parking space. Stuffed into a car with a hologast, Enoch said. What a disgusting scenario. Disgusting or not, there's no way I could track that. There wouldn't be any residue droplets to follow, and the scent trail would be way too faint. I sighed. My tracking ability just isn't that developed. Miss Peregrine raised an eyebrow at me.
I think you might surprise yourself, Mr. Portman. Look where you've led us.
I looked up. The trail was headed straight for a bus station.
Are you kidding? Emma said. They took a hologast on a bus?
No way, I said. We went inside. The waiting area was depressing and gray and probably hadn't been cleaned since the 1970s. Bums occupied the corners. Everyone else looked haggard and pissed off as they waited. I followed a light trail of hollow residue to the bus boarding area, where it suddenly disappeared. Unbelievable. They had caught a bus. I ran back to find my friends, and there was Emma, running toward me, eyes wide.
Somebody recognized one of them,
she said, waving the white's mugshots at me, then grabbing my arm to pull me over to the ticket window.
Yeah, I saw him, said the man behind the counter, bored. Couple of hours ago, they left on the 5 o'clock to Cleveland.
He returned his attention to a basketball game he was watching on his phone. Miss Peregrine rapped on the window.
How many stops does that bus make between here and Cleveland?
He sighed, fished a paper out of a drawer, and slapped it on the counter.
Here's the schedule.
She looked at it.
5 stops, she said, in a journey of about 1,000 miles.
She rapped on the window again.
When does the next bus to Cleveland leave?
45 minutes, he said without looking up. She turned to me with a self-satisfied smile.
See, Mr. Portman, just when you were about to lose hope. We'll stop at all the same stops they did, Emma said, and you can check for hollow goo.
She was rubbing her hands together, getting excited, just like she did whenever a plan came together or an impossible problem began to seem solvable. It was one of the things I loved about her, and always would. Enoch groaned again. And here I was hoping we might spend tonight in our own beds. You still can, I said. No one's making you come.
He's coming, Emma said. He just can't pass up on a chance to complain.
We found a deserted section of the waiting area and sat on a bench, a broken coin-operated TV bolted to the arm. My head felt like it weighed 1,000,000 pounds. It was so full. I was vibrating with stress, but I also could have fallen asleep on the metal bench if I just laid down. Everything in our world was unsettled and breaking apart, and yet Emma and Enoch were joking about something they'd seen the normals in town wearing, and Miss Peregrine's expression was completely placid as she looked around, thinking whatever she was thinking. Maybe they were so used to living under the looming threat of multiple catastrophes that it didn't affect them much anymore. But I couldn't take it. "Why are you guys so sure I can do this?" I said, struggling to hide my frustration.
"Because you're Jacob," Emma shrugged.
"I never said you could do it," Enoch said, but it sounded more interesting than bookmarking atlases with Millard all day. I turned to Miss Peregrine, our rock of sanity and wisdom. "What happens if I lose the trail and can't find them? What happens if we can't get the girl back? Tell me it won't be so bad. Tell me the world won't end if I fail at this."
"What will happen?" She sighed. "The Americans could lose faith in us, pull out of the conference, and go back to fighting one another. Or they may go to war right away, no matter what we do."
She said it so casually, my jaw almost dropped.
"Miss P, pardon me for saying so, but you don't sound like you care all that much," said Emma. "I care a great deal," she replied, "and the other Imbrins and I will do our level best to keep the negotiations afloat, no matter what happens. But there's only so much we can control. The Americans have to want peace. We can't force that. And even if we forge an airtight peace accord, it's always possible that it could fall apart one day."
"Then why send us to do this?" said Enoch. "If it might not matter anyway, why bother rescuing this girl?" Her placid expression vanished, and her eyes narrowed.
"Because it's not the girl I care about," she said. "It's the whites."
Now Emma looked shocked. Miss Peregrine didn't usually speak so bluntly, but it seemed she had decided to treat us like adults.
"This kidnapping wasn't a random act. I don't buy Miss Wren's theory. I think this abduction was about more than causing chaos and sabotaging the peace."
"Then what was it about?" I said.
"Follow the whites," she said. "Observe them, and we may yet find out."
"And the girl?" Enoch said.
"Get her back if you can. But don't take unnecessary risks. I could abide any number of personal failures, but I could not abide losing any of you."
"And what will you be doing while we're on this dangerous mission?" Enoch asked.
"I'll be watching."
Emma looked surprised.
"You're not coming with us?" "Not exactly," Miss Peregrine replied, "but I'll never be far away. Oh, and I want you to bring Hugh along."
Enoch cocked his head. "That's a bit random." "Can he be here in a half hour?" I said, glancing at a wall clock.
"Should be here any minute," said Miss Peregrine. "I sent for him some time ago."
And just then Hugh walked into the building, escorted by Ulysses Critchley, and waved to us, grinning from across the ticket hall. "Why Hugh?" Enoch said under his breath. "If you thought we needed backup, why not, I don't know, Bronwyn?"
"Because he is capable and selfless," said Miss Peregrine. "And frankly, he needs a bit of an adventure to take his mind off Fiona."
I couldn't argue with that. The poor guy spent every unoccupied moment worrying himself to death. The bus company's name and logo had been borrowed from a character in children's literature. He could fly, befriend fairies, and lived on an island where no one aged, and the cartoon image of him that was emblazoned on the bus, smiling in a jaunty feathered cap, clashed hilariously with the desperately gritty station. Before I could follow my friends aboard, Miss Peregrine pulled me aside to speak to me alone.
You've had dreams about him, haven't you, my brother?
I forgot for a moment to breathe. Yes?
But they seemed like more than just dreams, she said. Like he was inside your head.
I was nodding like a robot. Yes? Yes?
I've had them too.
Really?
He may be trying to reach out to us via our dreams to torment us. The two people he hates the most in the world, who he blames for his downfall. But believe me, Jacob, taunting us with visions is all he can do.
Are you sure? I said. What if they're trying to bring him back? She shook her head firmly.
It's impossible. He's stuck down a very deep hole, and he's stuck there forever. That I promise you.
But that won't necessarily stop them from trying, I said. Do you think that's what they're doing? Trying to bring back Call?
Please keep your voice down, she said, glancing around. And don't let your imagination run away with you. Remember, Bob the Revelator also predicted many things that never came to pass. So let us just focus on the task before us. And don't make too much of this. And please, don't tell the others.
I nodded. Okay.
But the next time he appears to you in a dream, tell me.
The bus started its engine. My friends were waving to me from the windows. And then I ran onto the bus. I brought some gifties, said Hugh, digging into a small bag in his lap. We'd only been riding the bus for a few minutes, and Enoch was already asleep. But now he roused himself. Emma and I leaned over our seats to look across the aisle. When everyone found out I was coming, they gave me things to bring to you. Claire packed us stew meat sandwiches. He pulled out several, wrapped in brown paper, and distributed them. Spare underwear and socks, courtesy of Bronwyn. Oh, this is good. 2 peculiar sheep's wool sweaters from Horace. Yes, said Enoch. I was wondering what became of those. They got a bit moth-eaten, but Horace has been repairing them in his spare time.
They can stop bullets, but not moths, Emma said.
Devil's Acre moths can eat through metal, Hugh explained. And flesh, I hear, said Enoch. Wonderful species. Hugh held up a dog-eared book. Olive's copy of Peculiar Planet North America. He shook it, and a map fell out from between the pages. And Millard tucked in a recent map of American loops. And this one's for you, he said, and handed me a small box. From who? I asked. He winked. Guess. There was a note on the top of it written in a neat, looping hand. It read, "The sunset you missed." I opened it. A stream of amber light floated up and out of it, glistening and sparkling like dust motes caught in a sunbeam. They circled around me so that it was all I could see for a moment before fading away. I was left with a pleasant tingling in my face. "Wow," said Hugh. "That was beautiful." "It actually was," said Enoch.
Someone might have seen that.
Emma said grumpily, but the other dozen or so passengers on the bus were staring at their phones or looking out the windows, and no one had. "Don't be jealous," Enoch teased her. "It doesn't suit you."
What? I'm not...
She stuttered, frowning.
Oh, shut up!
She got up and went to sit in a different seat. "Don't mind her," Enoch said. "She takes a long time to get over things. She moaned about Abe for half a century." "Let me see that loop map," I said, anxious to change the subject. I squeezed into Enoch and Hugh's seat, and we opened it across our laps, and pretty soon we were absorbed in the strangeness of it. I'd seen loop maps written in gold calligraphy and leather-bound atlases that weighed a ton. I'd seen them scrawled on restaurant placemats, traced over other maps, routes drawn with push pins and yarn, but I had never seen anything like this one. It was a real map, and a modern one, like something you'd buy at a gas station on a road trip. Strangest of all, there were ads running down the sides. Ads for loops. They sounded like truck stops, gas, food, lodging, with a few peculiar perks. "Hot meals at all hours," read one. "Hotel-style accommodations." Another boasted, "Disaster-free loop day. Perfect weather, peaceful normals. Experience our hospitality." And another, "Armed peacekeepers ensure a relaxing stay." One even had a coupon. "Clip for a 10% discount." "What kind of bizarre country is this?" asked Hugh. "One without Embrins," said Enoch. Peculiardom was many things, but it had never struck me as particularly capitalistic. American peculiardom was a different animal from what I'd come to know in Europe. That had already been made obvious to me in 100 ways since I'd first met H a few weeks earlier, but the realization kept hitting me. "Hotel-style loop," Enoch said sleepily. "Sounds like heaven." "Don't get your hopes up," I said. "I don't think these whites are interested in creature comforts." "Well, they'll have to stop somewhere," Enoch said. "The kidnapped girl's loop-trapped. She'll age forward if they don't." "You're assuming they want to keep her alive," Hugh said. "They went to a lot of trouble to snatch her," said Enoch. "I'm sure their intention wasn't just to let her wither into a pile of dusty bones." We rolled on. The sun began to sink. Enoch and Hugh joked around, messing with the other passengers using one of Hugh's bees. I could tell Enoch was doing his best to keep Hugh's spirits up, and it made me like Enoch a little more. He was sweet-natured despite his best efforts to be a jerk all of the time. I went back to my seat and fell asleep with one of Horace's sweaters balled between my head and the window. It was an uneasy sleep, full of uneasy dreams I couldn't remember. I woke with a start. Someone had sat down next to me. It was Emma. Her hands were knotted in her lap, and she looked tense. She checked over her shoulder to make sure Enoch and Hugh weren't listening to us. When she saw they were sleeping, she spoke.
"We need to talk about it," she said. "What happened between us?"
That woke me up quick.
"I've been trying not to think about it," she said, tried ignoring it, pretending it isn't there, pretending that we were only ever just friends, but it's not working.
That's pretty obvious, I said. Every time someone mentions Noor, you go dark.
I just need to say I'm sorry one more time. I'm sorry for what I did. I shouldn't have called him.
A surge of complicated emotions rose in my chest. It sounded so small when she said it. I had ended things with her because of a phone call. Part of me still wondered if I had overreacted. If I had broken her heart over something petty. Had you been doing that a lot? I asked her. Calling Abe?
No, only that one time from the road, and that was just to say goodbye.
I didn't know if I believed her, or if I cared. Suddenly, the way I'd felt that day flooded back, the sad certainty that she'd never really been mine, and never would be. That I had fooled myself because I loved the idea that someone like Emma would love me. In a way, I'm glad you did it, I said. It made me face something I hadn't wanted to look at head on.
What's that?
She asked timidly. You said it yourself a few days ago. I'm not Abe. And I'm never going to be.
Oh, Jacob, I'm sorry I said that. I was angry.
I know. And that's why you let yourself be so honest. Because the truth is, you still love him. She was quiet. And that was her answer. It was simple. She had been unable to stop herself from falling for me because I reminded her so much of him. And I hadn't broken her heart because she never really had given it to me in the first place.
I don't want you to hate me, she said.
She lowered her head. She looked so young in that moment, in that light. I felt sorry for her. I could never hate you. Her head fell against my shoulder, and I let it stay there. It was nearly dark now. I watched the last sliver of crimson sun slip behind some mountains beyond the road, the land around us fading to a sad late evening blue. So, what did he say? I said. What did you talk about when you called him?
He didn't say anything, really, she sighed. He was angry. He said I shouldn't have called.
You couldn't help yourself? She said so quietly I could hardly hear.
He said I was interrupting dinner, and he hung up.
When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes.
I felt like such an idiot. And then I had to come back to the car where you were waiting and pretend nothing had happened.
A little stab of pain shot through me, and then a thought I hadn't anticipated flitted through my head. Was my grandpa kind of a jerk? I put my arm around her and said, I'm sorry, Em.
Don't be, she said. I needed to hear it. To let him go, finally.
Finally. But too late for us.
I know. We can't be close like that anymore, she said. But we had a friendship, too. And it was real and worth something.
It still is, I said, and something unlocked in her, and her shoulders began to tremble. I'd meant what I said. I still believed that all the wonderful things I had felt about her were true. They just didn't make me in love with her anymore. Not the way they once had.
Thank you.
She said, still sniffling.
So, how do we do this?
Like this, I said, closing my arm into a hug. And now we should both get some sleep. A tap on my arm. Emma whispering, "We've stopped." I blinked. It was the middle of the night, and we'd arrived at some bus station in Iowa. "You go first," Enoch said, nudging me down the aisle toward the door. I got out, surveying the ground around the bus parking area for hollow residue. Nothing. They hadn't stopped here. We went into the station, which had a small, all-night food court. Enoch and Hugh got some rubbery hot dogs. Emma had a bean and cheese burrito. They were all aging day by day now. Teenagers in growing teenage bodies for the first time in almost a century, and they were always hungry. But my stomach was in knots, and the thought of eating made me nauseous. It was odd, I thought, how sometimes my friends seemed ancient, but at other times I felt older than them. We got back on the bus and rode on. I was drifting in and out of an anxious sleep when, sometime before dawn, Emma shook me awake. Emma doesn't know that. Emma doesn't know the rules about truck stop bean burritos. She's been in a loop. She's gonna find out, though. She's gonna find out. Sorry, I had to say that. I saw that comment, and I was like, wait.
Also, I gotta show you.
She doesn't know. Oh,
Through live.
so cute. She's been out. She's been so good.
We tuckered her out.
We did. We wore her out before this live started, just so this would happen. This was the best case scenario for me. We were stopped on the highway. The bus snarled in a long traffic jam. Somewhere up ahead, we could see the lights of emergency vehicles flashing. I started to get a bad feeling. 3 lanes of traffic were bottlenecked into one. Slowly, the scene came into view. There had been a bad accident. There were police cars, ambulances, a fire truck, flares, cops directing traffic, a circus of grim activity. My eyes couldn't help following a swirl of bold black tire marks past a torchlight parade of flares to the back of a wrecked bus. "Oh my God!" Emma whispered, her face washed over by red and orange flashes. "Could that be the same bus?" Hugh said. "The one they were on?" "We'd better find out," I said. Enoch said nothing, but he was nodding. Traffic had come to a standstill. I led my friends off the bus, pushing through the door over the driver's gruntled objections. "There's no way the police are going to let us snoop around an accident scene," I said. "You'd be surprised where you can go if you act like you belong there," said Emma. There were a few paramedics still circling the wreck, but it seemed the accident was a few hours old already, and the injured had long since been taken away. The bus lay on its side like a fallen giant, its bent and gashed frame flickering in the riot of lights. It looked like it had skidded off the road, tipped sideways, and dug a hole in the earth on its way to the edge of some woods. There were no other smashed vehicles that we could see. The bus appeared to have lost control and crashed on its own. It didn't take me long to find the hollow's residue trail. It was splattered all around the bus, and it led from the wreckage into the woods. There were no police, no EMTs in the woods, nothing at all but dark trees. I followed the trail, and my friends followed me. When we'd gotten 20 or 30 feet past the tree line, Emma sparked a flame in her hand to light our way. We passed a pile of trash, a cluster of spiny brush, and then we found her, lying in a pile of leaves. The girl, Ellery. She was dying, bleeding from a gash on her head, her leg twisted unnaturally beneath her. We rushed to her. "Someone get help!" Emma shouted, and Hugh took off running back toward the EMTs. She was a slight, pale girl. She had only one eye, and the eye patch that normally covered the other one was gone. In its place was a black and puckered hole. While we waited for help to arrive, we tried to find out what had happened, but Ellery was disoriented, fading in and out of consciousness.
"They wanted me to cry," she was saying. "The men with the blank eyes, they made me cry."
As she said it, a tiny white worm crawled out of her eye socket. It tumbled down her face and onto the ground, where I noticed 100 more just like it, wriggling among the fallen leaves. I nearly vomited. Emma and Enoch seemed unfazed.
"They stole her," she said, starting to cry. "They took her for me."
"Who?" said Emma.
"Materworm," she whispered, voice shaking. "She'll die now. She can't live outside."
Emma, Enoch, and I looked up, exchanged a look of dread. "Where are the men now?" I said.
"Gone," she said. "Will you kill them?"
"Oh, definitely," Enoch said.
"But not the girl. She doesn't want to do the things she does. They make her."
"What girl?" I said.
"She did it. She stopped the bus."
"How?"
"With her ropes. And she gave me the most beautiful flowers."
She began to convulse just as the EMTs arrived. Their flashlights lit everything up, and a moment later we were pulled away so they could work on her. Ellery was writhing, groaning, and something else was happening, though she was blocked by the EMTs, and I couldn't see what it was. I heard one of them swear as the group of them backed away from her. Someone said, "What the hell is going on?" And then suddenly, I could see her again. Ellery was in the grip of a violent convulsion, and there seemed to be a nest of silky threads growing around her. "Jesus," Enoch said. "She's starting to age forward." It was hair, sprouting from her scalp at an exponential rate, blanching from brown to silver to ivory, as it did. And then a sudden wind bent the branches and blew the leaves around us, and we looked back to see a helicopter landing just beyond the woods. We crouched, watching, unsure what to do. Several figures jumped out of the helicopter and ran toward us. It was the Americans. Lamothe and his bodyguard running through the woods, shouting Ellery's name. Miss Peregrine, Miss Wren, and Miss Cuckoo were right behind them and couldn't spare even a glance in our direction. The EMTs were shoved away, horrified that they had been about to run away, and as the Americans bent over Ellery, I saw the Embrons pouring something from a glass vial into her slack mouth. It was clear they were trying to save her somehow, but the girl was aging fast nonetheless. They picked her up, and I got a look as she was carried past. In the space of 30 seconds, her skin had thinned to near translucence, and her eye had clouded to milk. The Embrons could do nothing more for her. The Americans took Ellery, and Miss Peregrine peeled off from them and came over to where we were huddled against a tree.
"Miss,"
Emma cried and hugged her.
"where'd you come from?"
"I told you I'd be watching," she said, hair whipping in the helicopter's wind.
"Good thing, too."
"Will she die?" Enoch shouted.
"We gave her an emergency serum to slow the worst of her aging, but she may still succumb to it. Where's Hugh?"
"He went to get help," Emma said. "Hasn't come back." A look of worry flashed across the Imbran's face. We ran to find Hugh and spotted him by the wrecked bus, which was crumpled and lying on its side, surrounded by flares and police tape. The police who had been standing guard over the accident had left to investigate the helicopter, so for the moment, no one was there to stop us from running right up to the bus's exposed undercarriage. As we approached, I saw that the tires were blown, the axles broken. Hugh was standing beside one, pulling at what looked like a rope. Ropes had tangled around the axles, clogging up the wheel wells.
Ellery said something about ropes, Emma said as we ran toward Hugh. She said there was another girl and she used ropes to stop the bus.
You were right, I said to Miss Peregrine. There was a second person, a girl. But when we got closer, we saw that what Hugh was holding wasn't a rope at all. It was a vine. Vines were wrapped around the axles, around the wells.
What on earth?
Emma said, picking one up. It was green and thorned, and here and there it had delicate purple flowers. Ellery also said something about flowers, I said, that the girl gave her flowers. Enoch picked one up off the vine. I recognize this. They used to grow all around our house on Cairnholm. Hugh still hadn't said anything. He took the flower from Enoch and held it up in the garish, dancing light of a flare. Miss, he said, a haunted look stealing over his boyish features. This is a dog rose. Miss Peregrine turned to him, locked eyes, and nodded seriously.
Yes, Hugh.
I said, I don't understand. But the others all seem to.
It was Fiona's flower, Emma said quietly. She could grow them even without meaning to. Sometimes they'd sprout behind her as she walked.
I felt the air thin, my head go light. Are you saying? Enoch looked at the vines. Only Fee could have done something like this. Oh my God! Hugh cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. She's alive! Emma wrapped him in a hug, and he leaned into her. He was overjoyed and devastated all at once. They have her! They have her! Oh, my love! Oh, my God!
We'll get her back, Hugh, Miss Peregrine said. Don't doubt it for a second.
And that is the end of chapter 7, and why I said you'd all be mad at me.
Oh, big stretch. Oh, baby.
I know you have. You knew exactly what part I was talking about, and I'm like,
Here you go. Here's some pictures of her napping while you're reading.
oh, Dad took cat nap
That
pictures.
was
So cute.
oh.
Oh, she's still completely out right next to me. I expected this to be a lot more chaotic. She's been very chill.
There you go.
We did really we were roughhousing with her and petting her all for a good half hour solid before this live started.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see if we could tire her out to where she would chill.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally works. Does anybody want to go ahead and do chapter 8? I think we can make it. It's not that long. We're talking a little over. Is that a 4 or 1? Yeah, we're talking 12 pages.
We got this.
12. 12.
You got this.
12 pages. I'm going to keep going. Chapter 8. We would all be taking off in the American's chopper. It was big enough to fit everyone, and it was the quickest way out of there. We waited while the chopper was ready to leave. We were worn to the bone, our bedraggled bodies parked among the emergency vehicles. Miss Wren kept the police at bay somehow. I suspect with some wild story she had concocted, or a few well-timed memory wipes. Lamothe alone remained upright, pacing anxiously, while Miss Cuckoo and Miss Peregrine ministered to Ellery, applying balm to her forehead and what were ostensibly medicinal drops to her remaining eye. The cavity once covered by Ellery's eye patch was now half obscured by long hair. A pale worm poked its head through the silvery strands. Shuddering, I looked away, but the scene change didn't do much for the queasy feeling in my gut. Hugh, I realized, was nearing hysteria. Emma and Enoch were trying to keep him calm, but he still seemed too stunned to be reasoned with. Worse, he was crying again. I stood up and started toward him, but Emma pulled him close, curving their bodies together as she whispered anxiously in his ear. I took another step forward, and she stopped me with a single look, narrowing her eyes at me over his shoulder. "Let me handle this," she mouthed. So I gave them space. I found myself briefly alone, feeling useless, but simultaneously relieved to be useless. My deferred exhaustion now sank into me, muddling my mind despite my best efforts to remain vigilant. I leaned against a nearby police car, my propped elbows slipping with every passing second, watching Miss Cuckoo stalk down the roadside. Her manner was perfunctory as she memory wiped any traffic-jammed mortals who seemed too interested in what we were doing. I almost laughed. I felt lightheaded. And then, suddenly, I heard a voice. "Nice to see you again." The fine hairs on the back of my neck stood on end and I stiffened. It was a teasing sing-song of a voice, gentle but venomous and strangely familiar. I turned to look around, but there were no strangers here. I heard it again. "So, are you excited?" The words seemed to rise up from somewhere inside of me, almost a manufacture of my own mind. I was so tired I wondered whether I'd slipped into a waking dream. No, a nightmare. Small, revolting little noises, lips smacking, vowels stretching, filled my head. They were sounds of exaggerated satisfaction, like someone snuggling into warm, clean sheets after a long day. The voice whispered. "That's better. I could get used to this again." "Who's there?" I said, whipping around. "Jacob, are you all right?" Emma was staring at me. I blinked at her, startled, forgetting for a moment where I was. "Yeah," I said. "Sorry, I'm fine. I think I just fell asleep." I frowned at the lie. "Maybe I should take a walk, get some air, clear my head." Emma nodded distractedly, she and Enoch both too focused on their own task, calming Hugh, to question my strange behavior. So I walked, not too far to be irresponsible, but just far enough to clear the voice from my head and to convince myself of my own lies. That this was nothing, that I'd heard nothing. I took long, determined steps toward nothing, wending my way through the maze of emergency vehicles. The night air pushed at my body, the once welcome breeze growing aggressive. A sudden gust of wind wrapped around my legs so abruptly that I stumbled sideways, catching myself against the back doors of an ambulance. I heard the voice again.
"There's a new world coming," it whispered, "and it's going to be so beautiful."
"Who are you?" I said, hissing into the darkness.
"Just an old friend."
"And what does that mean?" I said, my head whipping back and forth and my heart racing. The voice laughed. It was a dark sound, rough and throaty, and then familiar words.
"Every land on earth will sink and reek and wallow in stench and stink of rotted trunks of beast and man, and vegetation crisped on land."
A lock rattled. The back doors of the ambulance swung open, nearly knocking me off my feet. By now I was thoroughly freaked out, and yet, somehow, I found myself drawing nearer the darkened interior. I don't know why. I didn't even know I was searching for something, until I saw it, until it seemed obvious what I might find here. A body, unmoving beneath a sheet. My every instinct was screaming at me to run, to call for help, to catch a flight back to my boring, predictable life in Florida. I shut it out, told it to die, and then I steeled myself and clambered into the ambulance, my heart beating out of my chest. I lifted a corner of the sheet. I saw the face of a young man, dead, half his head caved in. Jesus.
"Just an old friend,"
the voice said, and now it was coming from the body, from the dead young man's bloodied mouth.
"But I'll be back soon."
I let the sheet fall, my body now shaking uncontrollably. A song began to play from the radio in the cab, and play loud. It was "With a Little Help from My Friends." Chills ricocheted down my spine. I felt wild, out of control. I ran out of the ambulance and into Enoch. He grabbed me, eyes wide. "Where'd you go?" he shouted over a noise I hadn't noticed before. The chopper's engine. "Come on," he said. "We're leaving." And he pulled me away toward the waiting helicopter. Two minutes later, we were in the air, strapped into seats, headsets muffling the roar of the blades. Ellery was laid across the laps of Lamothe and his bodyguard in the front row, and the rest of us were squeezed into the back. Miss Wren and Miss Cuckoo had to assume bird form so we'd all fit, and they were perched near the pilot, scanning the dawning skies ahead. The Embrons had done all they could to stabilize Ellery, but getting her back into a loop was our only real chance of avoiding death, so we were headed for the nearest one, some backwater town called Locust Gap. I was still shaken by what had happened on the ground a moment ago. Was it a vision? A hallucination? It was Call's voice I heard. Call's voice quoting the most apocalyptic parts of the prophecy to me, which meant... what? Which meant I was losing my mind, probably. Either that or Call was just finding a new, creative way to torment me. Hugh was having a meltdown. Despite Emma's and Enoch's best efforts, he was doing worse. "They've got Fiona right now," he was saying through his headset mic for all to hear. "And the longer we take, the harder it will be to get her back. We need to search every loop within 300 miles of here, and we've got to do it now." Emma put a hand on his arm.
Hugh, that just won't work.
"Sure it will. We've got a helicopter." Lamoth turned around and glared. "This is my helicopter, boy, and the only place it's going is the nearest loop so we can save this girl's life." His glare shifted to Miss Peregrine. "Get your ward under control."
Please, Hugh, you must calm down, Miss Peregrine said. We need to choose our next move very carefully. We're all upset about this. We're all worried about Miss Frauenfeld, but this critical moment is the worst time to flail about blindly with no plan.
"Fiona's loop-bound too," Hugh muttered. "She'll age forward too."
Oh, God, Emma said, going a bit pale. I forgot.
I had forgotten too, because Fiona wasn't at the Library of Souls with us when it collapsed. She hadn't had her internal clock reset like the others, which meant she could age forward.
It's likely they took Fiona prisoner after Miss Wren's loop collapsed, months and months ago, Miss Peregrine said. She was seen leaping from the cliff's edge. We can only surmise that she survived the fall and was collected from the woods below.
Hugh's eyes fell shut as he imagined it. What have they been doing with her? And what do they want with her?
We don't yet know, said Miss Peregrine. But you can be sure they didn't keep her alive all this time just to let her age forward in the middle of...
Miss Peregrine glanced out the window.
Iowa.
Yeah, Hugh said miserably. I suppose.
After we make this one stop, Miss Peregrine said, we'll return to Devil's Acre, gather all our people and intelligence, and make a proper plan. And we will get her back.
He nodded. If you say so, miss. We touched down in a field next to an old barn, trees and bushes whipping in the downwash. The Embrans and the Americans were out of the helicopter before the rotors even began to slow. Miss Wren and Miss Cuckoo winged into the barn in bird form, and by the time the rest of us had caught up to them, they were in their human shape and somehow fully dressed again, not a hair out of place. We helped Lamoth and his bodyguard carry Ellery up a ladder to the barn loft where the loop entrance was, and after a quick changeover that left my stomach jittery, we carried her down again and out into a warm, foggy morning.
Hold it right there,
someone said, and then I saw a man pointing a gun at us. He was seated casually in a wooden chair, and he wore a top hat and an old mustachioed mask.
Name and clan affiliation, he barked.
Don't you know who I am? Lamoth thundered back.
Don't much care so long as you're not a Yankee and you got $50 for entry.
Then he tipped his head, sat forward, and muttered,
Wait a dad-burned second.
That's right, said Lamoth's bodyguard. This is Antoine Lamoth, and if you don't want to find yourself in front of a firing squad... Instantly the man tossed away his gun and threw himself on the ground.
Sorry, Lamoth, sir. I didn't didn't expect you.
Miss Wren stepped forward and pulled the man to his feet.
We need a bed for this poor girl, she said. Somewhere we can make her comfortable while we apply a few poultices. Of course, the man said, laughing nervously. There's an establishment just this way, very accommodating. No doubt they'll waive the cost to your distinguished persons like yourselves. We followed him as he led the way, bowing and scraping toward a cluster of clapboard buildings. The largest had an awning that read Restaurant, spelled just like that. There were 3 people loafing at the entrance, a waiter in a white jacket and 2 cooks in matching aprons. The masked man shouted at them to prepare a room, and they straightened and disappeared inside. Here's that dumb guy. I'm just going to call him Dumb Guy. He dumb. Oh, baby. The Embrins left us outside. We won't be long, Miss Peregrine said to us. We just have to make sure the girl is stable, and then we'll go. Hugh was a bundle of nervous energy. He was struggling to keep his freak out contained, and it was making a vein on his temple throb. I couldn't blame him. The love of his life was in the hands of Call's most notorious lieutenants, and God knew what was happening, or had happened already to her. But there was nothing any of us could do about it right then, so I looked around the bleak little town for something that might distract him. "Want to know why Carl wears a mask? Bet you do," trilled a little voice, and then a young girl emerged from around the corner of the restaurant. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her clothes were simple, brown hair cut into a short bob. "Why?" Enoch said boredly. "Ambrosia addict?" "It's for anonymity," she said, tripping over the word, then trying it again several times without success. "Whoever's guarding the entrance always wears a mask just in case they have to kill anyone, so people don't go revenging on him." "You don't say," said Enoch, more interested now. "I'm Elsie, and you're new. You're all here with those dim Embrins to change the loop clock's gears. They been getting stuck lately, causing trouble." She spoke in a rapid sing-song, her face intense with curiosity. "Those weren't demi-Embrins," Emma said. "They were real ones." "Ha!" she said. "You folks are funny." "We're not joking," I said. "And the furry guy with him was the leader of the Northern Clan," Enoch said. "Serious?" Elsie said, her eyes going wide. "What are y'all doing here?" "Can't talk about it," said Enoch. "Top secret." "And we're not staying long," Hugh added pointedly, and then his eyebrows shot up. "Unless you didn't happen to see 4 men come through here with a girl earlier today, did you?" "Nope. Nobody's come through in months." Hugh's face fell. "Except old Hangy there." She pointed to a desiccated corpse hung from a gallows across the street. "He was a highwayman, tried to rob us, so we shot him and hung him up in there as a warning. We take a real dim view of thieving ever since Brother Ted Sparkstone got stole." She eyed us hopefully. "You're not here about that, are you?" "About what?" Enoch said. "Brother Ted Sparkstone. I was hoping maybe such important folks were here 'cause the man who stole it been caught, and y'all's all come to return it." "I'm sorry," Emma said with a note of genuine regret. "We don't know anything about that." "Oh." Her unsinkable spirits deflated a little. "You want to meet Brother Ted anyhow? I know it'd cheer him. He ain't been the same." "We really shouldn't," Emma said. Elsie's head hung. Oh, I understand, she said, then glanced over at a little house not far away. Though we lives just over yonder. Why not? I said. If it's close. I met eyes with Emma and nodded at Hugh, and she got the message. Yeah, let's meet him, she said, hooking her arm around Hugh's. 23 skidoo, the girl yipped. Hugh came reluctantly, and we all walked over to the little house where Elsie talked a mile a minute. It's been slow lately. Nobody around at all. Just some salesman, a loop keeper. Teacher's supposed to come and give me lessons soon. Other than that, it's awful boring here. Where y'all come from? London, Emma said. Oh, I always wanted to go somewhere big like that. Is it nice? Enoch laughed. Not particularly. That's okay. I still want to see it. What time are y'all from? I mean, when were y'all born? You ask a lot of questions, Hugh said. Yeah, that's what I'm famous for. Brother Ted calls me the interrogatrix. Will you take me with you when you go home? Emma looked surprised. You don't like it here? I just want to see someplace besides Locust Gap. I was born in Cincinnati, by the way, but I've been here since I was 4. That's not so long, I said. She nodded. Yeah, I reckon not. I'm only 44. We entered the little house. I knew you were going to make a noise, and I was like, damn. Sorry. No, you're good. It was like stepping into an oven. There was a huge fireplace roaring with flames, a pile of heavy blankets in front of it. Hi, brother, said Elsie, and the blanket pile turned slightly in our direction. There was a kid in there, cocooned in the middle of all that. Good Lord, said Hugh. He'll be roasted alive. Don't touch him, Elsie warned. You'll get frostbite. He's got a temperature -50. Hello there, the boy said, shivering the words out. His skin was blue, his eyes red-rimmed. Poor thing, Emma whispered. Sweat was already beading on my forehead, but as I approached the boy, I could feel waves of cold emanating from him, beating back the heat and the sweat. I turned to Elsie. You said someone stole his... what now? His Sparkstone, she said, and gave the boy a mournful smile. He'd tell you himself, but it's hard for him to talk. His tongue gets so stiff with cold. Maybe I can help, said Emma, if just for a little while. And she summoned flames, and both her hands stoked them until they were bright and stood with them held above the boy. That's nice, he chattered. Thank you, ma'am. The temperature was getting unbearable. The hotter it became, the more I began to notice a strange, acrid smell, like someone cooking trash. But I tried to forget about it and focus. The boy was warming just enough to form sentences now. I have this condition, Ted said, his skin a shade or two less blue. Only thing that ever helped me live normal was the Sparkstone. A little green stone that was always aflame and never went out, which my Imbrin gave me long ago. He looked sad and wistful. This was back when we had Imbrins. She brought it from far away, she said, across the sea. She said if I kept it in my stomach, it would keep me warm always, and it did for a long time. The smell was starting to become even more oppressive than the heat. I pinched my nose closed against it. Strangely, it didn't seem to be bothering anyone else. And then
That man came to town, the boy went on, his words flowing easier now. He said he was a doctor. I was always a little cold, never could go without a coat and a sweater, and he said he could fix that for me if I just coughed up the Sparkstone and let him tinker with it. I was listening so intently that I didn't realize I had been walking toward the corner of the room until I was halfway there. Something was drawing me, the smell, and a queasy feeling. He took it from me, said the boy, and when I tried to chase him and get it back, something stopped me, something strong I couldn't see. He was shaking his head, blinking back tears. It pinned me to the wall and stuffed my mouth so I couldn't scream. I passed out. There, in the corner, was a spot on the floor that had been stained black, the source of the smell. Jacob, Emma said quickly. That sounds like a hologhast, I said, and there's a drop of its residue right here. The boy nodded. That's where it held me. When was this? I asked. 5-6 months ago, said Elsie. What did the man look like? Like anybody, he said, blinking. Like nobody. He had glasses, didn't he, Ted? Elsie said. Dark glasses that he never took off. There was a loud knock on the door, and it opened. Miss Peregrine came into the room and then drew in a sharp breath, overwhelmed by the heat. We're going, she said. Hugh and Enoch said quick goodbyes and ran after Miss Peregrine. Elsie looked at me, pleading. Ain't there something you can do, you know, fancy people? We have a lot on our plate right now, I said, but we won't forget you. Elsie nodded, bit her lip. Thank you, Ted said. It's always nice to see friendly faces. Don't get much of that around here. I'm so sorry, Emma said to him. I wish we could stay longer. It's okay, he said, sighing, and he turned his gaze heavily back toward the fireplace. Elsie did too, and for a moment in the strong light of the fire she looked both young and ancient and lost. Emma slowly closed her hands. She seemed so sad and sorry. We barely knew these people, but her heart was, as I already knew, bigger than France. By the time we got to the door, the boy had already started to turn blue again. There's a picture. Such a good kitty. And that is the end of chapter 8. I don't think we should start chapter 9 right now, but we do have quite a bit of time, more time than I anticipated, to be real. And that was like 20 pages. So that would take closer to an hour. I can do it if y'all want to go over time to make up for the fact that we fucking didn't do anything for 2 weeks. One, y'all just let me talk about nonsense. So it's up to y'all. I could still go. And my voice is fine, I think. But that's up to you guys. I got bed at 9, so y'all decide. Okay. But nonsense talk is fun. It is. Yeah. Thank you for letting me go off on random tangents. You're good either way. You could do extra cat facts. I could also give you the cat fact of. We could do our regularly scheduled cat fact, and then we could also do what I think Minty is. Also true. We don't want Lady Aoife to miss anything. Because I think I know what cat Minty is. She is right next to me. We wore her out right before this lap. I'm amazed that it's lasted this long, where she was just like, yes, I am content.
She hasn't stopped purring.
Did we do Japanese bobtail? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think we've done Japanese bobtail. So I'm going to do Japanese bobtail. The Japanese bobtail cat is totally unrelated to the American bobtail cat, and its tail is much shorter, generally referred to as a bunny tail. The breed existed in Japan for hundreds of years, thought to have come from the Asian mainland as many as 1,000 years ago. Like most things in Japan, the Japanese bobtail cat was largely unknown to the rest of the world until relatively recently, when a Western cat breeder brought one back from Japan in the 1960s. The breed's popularity within Japan is almost ubiquitous, though. The Japanese bobtail cat is the unofficial street cat of Japan, and because of existing anti-cat laws at the time these cats were released into the streets to catch silkworms, most feral cats in Japan today are purebred Japanese bobtail cats. They're also featured prominently in historic Japanese art and folklore. Because the Japanese bobtail has almost no tail, the rest of its body type and musculature must make up for this difference, in balance compared with other cats with normal tails. Overall, the Japanese bobtail cat is surprisingly graceful. And there's a little Japanese bobtail.
Look at the baby.
Little baby. Oh, also you're a little baby. Okay, sorry, she just made a little noise.
She just clicked her
Made an adorable noise. Okay.
She kicked.
And now, I believe Minty. I saw that on Steam the other day. I haven't gotten it yet. Because I got another game that is so far up my alley, it's inappropriate. Now for the cat that I believe Minty is, because I think Minty is a mix of American Shorthair and Ocicat. And now we've already covered American Shorthair, but we are going to cover the Ocicat today since we got double time. Ocicat. Like the Bengal domestic cat, the Ocicat is seen by many as a way for people to be more familiar with and protective of similar endangered wild cats. At first glance, the Ocicat resembles an Egyptian Mao cat, with similar coloration and spots, but its body shape is much more like the American Shorthair cat. This makes sense because the first Ocicat was the result of the cross between an Abyssinian and a Siamese cat. But the resulting spotted kittens were crossbred with American Shorthair cats to ensure that they were strong and healthy. The Egyptian Mao is an elegant, leggy cat occurring naturally in Egypt, and the Ocicat is a gentle, friendly indoor cat created while someone tried to breed something else. There are relatively few show colorations for Ossicats, including colors like chocolate that reflect the breed's origins as part Siamese. The Cat Fanciers Association defines specific markings on the head and body, including where the spots converge and blend into necklace markings or rings around the tail. If not for its distinctive spotted coat, the Ossicat looks like an average neighborhood cat, with a medium size and body type, and strong but not stocky. The combination of friendly Abyssinian, chatty Siamese, and overall good-natured American Shorthair makes for an Ossicat that is sociable, curious, and playful. These cats make loyal pets and often bond with one person or another animal in particular. They love to be included in what's going on and are known to follow people from room to room. And I will show you a picture of an Ossicat without losing my page, hopefully. Now, generally, a purebred Ossicat has spots similar to an Egyptian Mau. But notice the body type, long, slender tail, not really leggy like an Egyptian Mau, but has the similar forehead markings, wedge shape to the head, large ears. And now look at this baby. I'm gonna wake you up. I believe she's a tabby variation. Oh. Look at this little face. Look at this little wedge-shaped face and the ears. So similar. And she's not exactly super leggy, but she is very sociable and will not rest until I am right next to her on top of her. Like, she has to be on my person physically, like, to be happy.
Hi.
If I'm not in this room, she's very vocal. So vocal. And every time I go to leave, she's like, I go too? And the fact that she followed me home within minutes of meeting me, long slender tail, short hair.
Come here.
That's just my guess. I could be wrong, but I feel like I'm right.
Hi, babes.
I feel like I'm
Hi,
right.
babes. Hi. Hey, sweet baby.
She did not, but Dad is now holding her.
I win.
Dad stole the cat.
I love kitties. Oh, you want to go back to your dad? Or do you want to chill on my lap? I don't
come
care.
here. Well, come here, get extra camera time.
Your audience awaits.
Yeah.
Are you camera shy?
She's figuring out how to jump. She hesitates when she does that because she's unsure if she's going to make it.
It's okay.
Here.
Poof. Jump on. There, you made it.
Look at this baby.
Her little bow tie.
She doesn't super like to be held, but she loves to be pet. And she loves to be included. And she wants to follow me around. If you're showing her attention, she's happy. That's
She doesn't know what to do.
Oh yeah, she'll straight up just flop over. She almost fell off the desk the other day because I was petting her and she was like, "Ah, yes. Yes, yes, yes." And then just flopped the rest of her body off the desk and I was like, "Oh no." And I had to catch her really quick. She's so cute though. And like, if I'm in this room, she is invested in like whatever I'm doing. She's like, "No, you gotta put that down. I gotta be my time. My time." And I'm like, "You're right." Oh, so cute. You're not gonna steal them. You can meet them. You're not stealing my cats.
Who said they're gonna steal them?
Diana, guess.
No, I'll break your kneecaps.
Dad will break your kneecaps.
That's not a threat, it's a promise.
I am not above letting you guys meet my cats. You can absolutely meet my cats. If you want to shower my cats with attention, I encourage that. They deserve attention. Yeah, isn't that right? Who deserves to be pet every day of their life? Did you want tuna pate? I will give it to you. That face. She is so tiny. Not even if they're in the yard. I don't know what that mean. What do you mean? If there's a cat in the, all of our cats are indoor cats except for Bradley. He's also just chilling. Dog, you can meet the dog if you want. The dog loves meeting people.
He does.
He
He's
is
an idiot. and I love
aggressively
him.
good. It's almost impossible not to meet him. Like he's aggressively gonna make sure that you meet him. If you come anywhere near here, he's gonna be associated with somebody. Like it was
He's mad
raining.
himbo energy.
It was raining when I brought Dad over here earlier to help with Paw Patrol. And the dog is sopping wet, just running through the house, like jumping all over because he's seen Dad again for the millionth time. Like he doesn't know how to like not
Lose his shit.
Yeah, no, he is legitimately losing his mind every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Every single week he freaks out every time Dad comes in like he's never met him before.
Yep.
It's absolutely adorable. He is so into it. Yeah. Who's a good cat? Are you a good cat? Yeah, you are. Yeah. She's so tiny whenever she curls up. She's so small. She's so small.
I think you had a skein of yarn bigger than her.
I know. I was like, there's skeins of yarn in that basket that are larger than this cat. She's so small. She's so small. She's so small that I'm worried. I'm like, we gotta fatten you up. We gotta get you some food. And then every time I feed her, she will not eat if I'm in here. I have to leave, or else she will legitimately rather be pet than eat. And I'll put the food down, and she'll just have hopped up on the back of the chair and is like, hands, I need pets. And I'm like, okay, and I'll pet her for a little bit, and I'll try and set her in front of her food. If I'm still in here, she's like,
But pets.
but pets. She won't even eat. I have to leave to make sure she eats. I have to leave the room for her to eat because she just will not. Now, if she's had plenty of pets that day, or I've been in here for a while, she will go ahead and eat. But if it's like she hasn't seen me yet that day, if I when I come in the morning, will not eat. That's the best meal of the day. That's when they get the wet food.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, I need pets. And I'm like, you are one weird cat. I've never had a cat that was so disinterested in immediately getting tuna. It's kind of wild. She's very sociable. And she's not super touchy about anywhere you pet her or touch her. She just loves attention, no matter what. You can hold her paw, she won't care.
I do hold her paw.
She won't care. She's like, yeah, we're holding hands. And you can scratch her belly. It's not a trap. It legitimately isn't. Most of the time she loves it. She'll roll over.
James is not a trap either. Every other cat, it's a trap.
Every other cat, it's a trap. Not her. Doesn't matter. See, she's grabbing for your hand. She wants you to pet her.
You gonna eat some food? Yeah.
But yeah, she'll
Good
do that
cat.
where I'll be doing something. She'll walk up and she'll just sort of paw at my wrist. And I'm like, okay. And frankly, I've never had a cat this touchy-feely before. I've had cats that when they want attention, they do that all the time. All the time. Constantly. She never gets tired of it unless she's unconscious.
Like she was
If
earlier.
she's unconscious, that's the only time. The rest of the time, you gotta be included. She's gonna be like a hops on your face in the middle of the night cat. I know it, for sure.
There.
I know exactly that she's gonna be that cat. She's also gonna be a cat that's almost similar to a dog, where they'll just follow you around. Because every single time I change, if I'm sitting over at the desk and I come over here, she'll follow me. If I'm sitting over here and I move over there, she'll follow me. Every time I try and leave the room, she's like, I go too? And I'm like, no, you have to stay in here for right now.
Oh no. I've become attached.
Oh no.
Oh no. It's fine.
And in all honesty, I didn't even rescue her. She hitched a ride Let's be clear.
She's a hitchhiker.
I would love to say that I rescued her, and in a way I did, but like, she just followed me home. She got in the car. Like, I didn't even ask. She got in the car.
She's like, I go with you? Cool.
Yeah, she just decided. She was like, oh, this one person was nice to me. I'm gonna follow this motherfucker. And then she did. And then she hopped in the car. And I could tell, like, she definitely had not been in a car before. 'Cause she was, like, wigging out. And she peed on the floorboard. And I was like, oh no, like, what do I do? I had to clean the floorboard when I got home. Oh yeah, I was informed after she got home. She was like, but she very much was just like, I'm coming home with you. Like,
You're fucked, dude.
Yeah.
You're taking me home.
it's pretty much like a, you know, like, I've made this decision for you. You're my dad. And I'm like, okay, and that's how that worked out. But she just hopped in there. And the fact that she, like, straight up, she had no fear of me as a person. Like, normally, if they're legitimately strays, that's why I was like, she's gotta be someone's pet. She's so personable. She's so ready for, like, human attention, right? That, like, I don't know how to, like, put it any other way. I was like, she's got to be owned. Like, someone has to have taken care of her. And then when the guy said that they lived 2 doors down, and I knocked on the door and they didn't answer the door, and I was like, he hasn't heard of him going on 2 weeks now. That was right around graduation. I'm like, what are the chances this was some college kid? And they left after the semester ended. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, can't take a cat. And then just left him there. Like, they just started feeding an outdoor cat. And then the cat got dependent on them. And then they left. And they didn't think twice about it. And then now their fucking neighbor has had a cat break into their apartment like 5 times. Yeah. Like Ocean's 11, just like, da-na-na, and then just like, poof, into the apartment, fast as lightning. And I was like, oh, is that your cat? And he was like, no. And I was like,
I'm sorry.
oh. I didn't know that was, like, not a thing. Like, I didn't realize. Oh, that was adorable.
Her complete 180 to you.
Yeah, it's so cute. Hi. Come back up here. Now that you're done with your snack. I'm petting, jeez. Yeah. But that's my theory anyway, is that she was clearly used to people. Yeah, she's pretty vocal too. But yeah, she'd definitely never ridden in a car before. And then when she wasn't microchipped or anything, and she didn't have a collar on, I was like, okay, well then clearly they don't deserve her. I do. My cat. I'm gonna feed this cat.
My cats are too smart for collars.
Your cat?
Yeah.
This is also Minty, the one cat that doesn't absolutely dunk her bow in water and try and rip it off. Every other cat is just like, I gotta get this bow off. What's a good mechanic for that? I know. I'll get it sopping wet and then I'll rip it off. Not this one. Likes it. Doesn't even mind. Barely noticed right after I put it on. And I'm like, I find it hard to believe you didn't wear a collar before with how easily you got used to it. There was no period of time where she was like, I am uncomfortable. I'm gonna rip this off. She has a little bow. It's just a little gray bow. Blue-gray bow with little white polka dots.
It's so cute.
I'm going to change the bow out periodically, but that's just the one that came with this collar. It was so cute. But I have loads of cat bows that I've not been able to use because all the cats like to get them wet and rip them off their neck. And Minty is just like, I don't care. I like this bow. Like, it doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. Yeah. You can see how satisfied this cat looks, like, all of the time. So cute. This is her lot now. Yeah. She's super chill if she's next to me. Is pretty much how it goes. And when I relocate, she'll follow me, and she's gonna try and climb on the keyboard when I start gaming. I just know it. I just know it. She's been climbing on top of everything on the desk. Knocking over drinks. She's a cup knocker. She's a cup tipper.
Pure face of happiness right there.
She's so small. She's so tiny. I do not have diabetes.
Too bad.
That was a weird question. I just didn't expect it. I was not paying attention to the comments. I was
Out of
petting my
nowhere,
cat.
just a new diabetes.
I was like, what?
Wolf of Bruin, I have diabetes.
He likes to be pet. He's a good kitty. Yeah.
Oh, the pets.
Little bow. So cute.
Betrayal.
She's like, I thought we were petting me. She is super soft, actually. It's a little bit coarser than like Spiker Nancy's, but it's still very soft. But she has a short hair, so it's not.
Floofy.
Yeah, it's not floofy or anything. Yeah, good kitty. Meow. Oh, a high five. Yeah. Sorry. I love it when cats do that in their sleep where they're like, eh. I'm like, yeah, high five. Bam. Good night, Lady Eva.
Night.
We also gotta go too. We're gonna have to start the video game stream.
Double tap.
She's like, what?
Ah.
Look at them little beans. Okay. All right, and now we're gonna move over to the video game stream. Unless y'all want to continue to watch me pet my cat all night, that's totally fine. No, I am.
That's when Dad takes over the stream.
Yeah, Dad's time. This is Dad's cat hour.
And we're gonna play. I have several games we could play if you just want to sit here and pet your cat.
Looks at me. Why did you do that? So cute.
You're not about to leave me, right? That's what she said.
Yeah, she's like, "What are we doing?" Anyway, I'm gonna move over to the video game stream, and Dad's gonna be occupied with the cat.
Or at least try to keep the cat occupied.
Yeah, so she doesn't walk all over my keyboard and tip all my drinks over. Which is what she's been doing.
Make no promises, though.
Yeah. I know you can't control her every movement here, so like, and she's fast. So, anyway, also I got a new game that I kind of want to try out. I will talk to you more about it in the Discord. So I'll see you there in a few minutes. And if you're new here and you liked what we did here today, we do this every Tuesday almost, except for when I don't, apparently. So there's that. I only say that because the last 2 times it's gone terribly. Anyway, you can find everything else on the YouTube, all the lead ups on the YouTube, so go check that out, and I will see you guys here again next week. You want to say bye? You want to say bye really quick? Everybody loves you. All of them love you. You say bye. You want to say bye? Minty says bye. We'll wave. Woo.
Just like, ugh.